How you going, man?
Good, thanks, John. Yourself, mate?
I'm fantastic. I'm so upset I missed such an awesome podcast on Monday night with Craig Gower. I've listened to it 3 times now. It's gotten a lot of all positive comment, all positive upvotes and stuff on YouTube as well. So it's a miracle.
Yeah. It was a pity you weren't able to join us. You weren't feeling the best.
No, I was sick, Craig Gower.
Yeah. Sorry not to have you there, mate. But yeah, it was good to have a real good chat with Craig Gower. I think he offered a lot of insight, John, a lot of interesting opinions, and
definitely,
yeah, that's great news that we've got him on board.
Yeah, and he'll appear again in a few weeks. So we can go over actually when the season started as well. So that'll be good.
Yep, absolutely.
But we can open with Rugby League. As we do now, because Rugby League season is only 1 week away.
Yes.
My best friend Peter Vlandys has come out. I've been a little bit critical of him in the past, and I don't have a problem with him as an administrator, but I kind of have a problem with his multi-job life and some of the things he says. So he's come out and claimed that NRL is now the number one sport in Australia. We've discussed that before, right? I see that as people justifying them buying themselves an Xbox over a PlayStation. They have no real factual data to back it up. They just say it because that's their favourite. So he's bought himself a PlayStation by becoming an employee of the NRL, so therefore the NRL is the number one sport. But they had $700 million in, this was other things he said, $700 million in turnover last year, and they made like $58 million in profit, which they've put into a war chest. Main problem with this is this is the same league that caused such a massive issue with the Rugby League Players Association crying poor about how numbers were down, money was down, all this kind of stuff. And then kind of bullied the Rugby League Players Association, and also the RLPA bullied the NRL into coming to an agreement. And then, a month after the agreement's signed and we're all set for 5 years or whatever it is. Oh, by the way, actually, we made record profit, record money. We're on our way to becoming the first $1 billion sport. We've bought 10 pubs and we're going to buy 10 more.
Yeah. It's amazing how the narrative's changed, John, all of a sudden. Very interesting to me. You mentioned that he didn't have any factual data to back up what he was saying. Well, I've got some factual data for you here, John. So the top, I've taken these, I've taken this information from 2023, John. It's February 2024. Yep. It's going to be a bit of time before we get some in concrete numbers for 2024. So I've decided to use 2023 here. So the top home crowd average for an AFL team in 2023 was Collingwood with 63,723. The top home crowd average for an NRL team in 2023 was the Brisbane Broncos with 33,793. Okay, so 8 AFL clubs, aside from Collingwood, had higher home crowd averages than the Brisbane Broncos. Okay, now moving on to membership numbers. The top AFL club membership total in 2023 was Collingwood with 106,470. The top NRL club membership total in 2023, the Brisbane Broncos with 40,207. Only the GWS Giants and Gold Coast Suns had less members among AFL clubs than the Brisbane Broncos, who had the most of the NRL clubs. The AFL's next TV deal to run from 2025 to 2031 is worth $4.5 billion over 7 years. That equates to $643 million a season. The NRL's current TV deal is worth $2 billion over 5 years, 2023 to 2027, $400 million a season. So that's crowd averages, membership totals, and the television broadcast deal. That's 3 pretty key areas, John, where the AFL have the NRL covered. And, John, you know how much I'd love to be talking about how the NRL is more prosperous than the AFL. I do prefer the NRL. I think it's a better game. But the facts of the matter don't lie, John.
Yeah, but how many pubs does the AFL own? because that's what his thing was. They bought some pubs or hotels or something, and the rugby league only makes sports only make like 4 or 6% profit, whereas pubs make 10%, and they've bought a bunch of hotels and they're going to buy more hotels, and that, Dean Young was the best forward on the field in 2008. How many pubs do you own, AFL? Get that up, yeah. It's just ridiculous. But if I was the RLPA, I would be straight away in the news going, hey, 2 months ago you were poor.
Yeah.
What happened? Now you got $700 million in turnover and $60 million profit that's gone into your war chest. And your war chest has like $160 million in it, but you couldn't afford the pay bump that we want. And
yeah, I would have thought Clint Newton would be jumping on that. He loves an opportunity to get his I really wonder why he's not on TV or in the paper.
Like maybe he's got some of that $60 million in profit. Allegedly. But yeah, it was just that popped out to me it was such a big hassle last year. Threats of boycotts and strikes and stuff like that. You had Craig Gower on here last week, and he was talking about his 2003 Dally M that he didn't get, which was driven by the RPLA and NRL standoffs. Those things do happen, and those things could have happened. And all the while, NRL saying, look, we just can't afford it. There's no money in it. And RLPA saying, we're the guys that put their bodies on the line and stuff like that. And then, it's like, deal signed. Everything's done. We've sorted it out. Bit of bullying going on. Bit of stepping in by the big man Vlandys, and then suddenly, by the way, also, we're at the best financial position we've ever been. Just kind of offensive to me.
Yeah, something doesn't add up there. But the thing that alarms me, John, is those 3 categories I just went through there: the home crowd averages, the club membership totals, and the TV deal. The AFL's not just in front; they're miles in front in those 3 categories. I know they don't have an international presence. I get that. They don't have a team in New Zealand. They don't have a presence in England. But I don't think you can just come out as Peter Vlandys and say that the NRL's the number one sport with those 3 key categories that I just went through before. Clearly going in the AFL's favour. I mean, that's $643 million a season to $400 million a season with the TV rights.
I can also...
That's a pretty big difference.
Chuck another one in there for the 2023 Grand Final. NRL total ratings was 3.52 million viewers, AFL 3.84 million viewers. So even the AFL, a non-TV friendly game, their Grand Final had more viewers. And so the NRL continually going on about their TV game and stuff like that, and using State of Origin as the linchpin in the argument as to what's the number one game. It's just a myth. It's one of those things it's Djokovic versus Federer.
Yeah. It's the same, and we will be. Those items are on our rundown a bit later, John. We will be getting into that argument again a bit later, but. I mean, these are, Collingwood's nearly double Brisbane's home crowd average last year. Collingwood's more than double Brisbane's membership number. The Brisbane Broncos, the top NRL club, Collingwood the top AFL club with the home crowd averages and the club membership totals. So they are fairly damning figures.
Yeah,
on the NRL's part, George.
It's just a stupid thing to come out and go on about how we're number one game.
So Vlandys, he's making a habit of putting his foot in his mouth lately. That comment he made about we will be talking about the New Zealand coaching job in a little bit. A new appointment's been made. It wasn't Wayne Bennett, but. He made that really stupid comment where he said, I would have thought Wayne would want to be on a winning team in reference to New Zealand and Australia. Only a few months after New Zealand thrashed Australia 30-0 in the Pacific Championships final. So Peter Vlandys, I think it's time for him to pull his head in. He's making a fool of himself quite regularly at the moment, John, and he's making a real habit of making a fool of himself.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's also still in New South Wales, Racing New South Wales, something chairman, whatever. He's got 45 jobs. He's involved in everything. And, obviously the NRL is in a good place and you can say or do what, I don't know, like you can save Peter Vlandys as being good for the game, but if it's getting to that point where it is wanting to become the number one code, then perhaps they need somebody who is more 100% dedicated to the role than somebody who's not.
Yeah, well, on the surface, I mean, all right, he's pushing the game in Vegas. You know, we've got that coming up. That's something new that he's brought in. But, I mean, aside from that...
Stupid rule changes.
I know, he's brought in a lot of rule changes. He's, just changed the rules at every opportunity really quickly without much consultation. I know the Dolphins have just come into the competition. But, other than that, has much really changed? I mean...
bought pubs.
Yeah, they bought pubs. I mean, the crowd numbers haven't changed. The membership numbers haven't changed. The TV deal the value of the TV deal hasn't really gone up. So, in a lot of areas, not a lot seems to have really changed under his watch. Anyway, it's hard. I guess there are a lot of there's a lot of factors that we don't have all the information on.
Of course.
To just come out and say he should go, I mean that's probably a bit strong, but he's certainly he's certainly making a fool of himself on a regular basis.
You always go back to that Moneyball thing. Like, what are we doing here if it's not to win championships? The only championship the NRL can win is being the number one sport in Australia. So what is he doing there? What are they all doing there if not to become the number one sport? If you're pottering along like the Oakland A's in second place, they weren't in second place. They were like bottom of the ladder, but in second place forever. Yeah. What are you doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I know like they're saving money trying to build up their war chest and everything so they can expand the competition to a 20 team comp. I know that. That's also part of his news article about how much money they made, that's part of his quote, about how much money he made. And that's all well and good too. I wouldn't mind a 20 team comp. It just depends on the draw. That gives them better TV deal. The TV deal you just said comes up ends 2027, right? So they've got to, in the new TV deal, factor in what teams will be in the competition as well. So it makes a complex TV negotiation as well, because it's not like they can go and say, all right, we want a $3 billion TV deal over 5 years. This year we'll have 8 games a week. Next year we'll have 9. The year after we'll have 10. Like, it makes it so confusing. And I'm like you said, like, we don't know all the story, but it'd be nice if we knew more of the story about where they're going and what they're doing.
Yeah, you make a fair point there. So 2028 will be, this deal expires in 2027, 2028 will be the new TV deal. So if you're going to get those new teams in, you want them, as you said, you want them in by 2028.
Yeah, exactly.
The next TV deal.
And you look at Tasmania, the AFL Tasmania already announced their team that's not coming in until like whatever it was.
I think it was 2028 actually.
Yeah. So they're 4 years, 4 years in, 4 years away. You would hope that the NRL would, let's get them in. Announce 3 at the same time. I don't care. Whatever you got to do, so we know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like adding a 17th team, I mean, that doesn't do a whole lot because you're not getting that extra game each week onto the TV deal until you get to 18 or 20 teams. You're not going to see that TV deal value go up too much because you got the same number of games. If they can get to 20 teams, that's 2 extra games on TV. That will add to the TV deal. But they got a lot of ground to make up. As I said, the AFL getting $643 million a season. The NRL getting $400 million a season at the moment.
Was it the last TV deal that was based around a tantrum as well, though? Was it that one?
Actually, no, I think that was the one where Murdoch got upset with the NRL.
Because the NRL negotiated a deal with Channel 9 without...
I think that might have been. The one before.
Oh, okay,
because this AFL one I've mentioned. It's 2025 to 2031. I'm pretty sure.
That was.
I'm pretty sure the one where Murdoch got upset and actually fronted that press conference himself.
Yeah.
As if that wasn't a
Yes.
a shot at the NRL, if ever you've seen
The
one.
previous AFL TV deal beating the NRL one was based around a tantrum.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure. John,
Yeah, it was the previous one. Yeah. So it's kind of just demented to me at the moment. But hopefully, like I said, more things after. Obviously, everything is about Vegas right now. After Vegas, we can get some more clarity around what's going on with the NRL and where they go in the future. There's still stuff about North Sydney Bears. He said, like Peter Vlandys said, North Sydney Bears is probably going to be the next team, and all this kind. And then PNG will be the next team, and so on and so forth, or whatever it is, the Pacific Islands team, and all that. We just want some clarity around it, because they can go on about how much money they made and how many pubs they've bought, but what are we doing here if not to win the premiership?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you are looking at expansion, you are looking at the Pacific Islands, aren't you?
That's got to be the one. That'd
be next cab off the rank. I think maybe after that, you're probably looking at a Central Coast team, I would have thought maybe. I don't know about this Penrith, this Perth and Adelaide. I don't know. It's been done and it didn't work. Do we really go back to that in areas that just don't care about rugby league? I'm not sure about that, John.
Yeah, I don't know. Second New Zealand team.
So you probably, just off the top of your head, you're looking at a Pacific Islands team. If we're looking at 3 more, Pacific Islands team, a second New Zealand team, and a Central Coast team. That's probably the direction that I'm looking myself.
What are they, like, somewhere between Newcastle and Brisbane could be a good team? That area. I don't know what that area is called. Is that the Central Coast? No, that's the North Coast.
No, I think the
Central Coast is Gosford, right?
Yeah, Central Coast is Gosford. Yeah.
But there's a massive population between basically Newcastle and Tweed. There's Coffs Harbour, Port Macquarie, all that kind of, like, somewhere in there could be a team. But NRL is national, but really stuck on this side of the Australia, and that's what you would hope to see. But speaking of the Kiwis, Wayne Bennett did not get his job. Instead, Stacey Jones was given the nod. What do you think of that appointment?
Yeah, to be honest, John, I don't mind it. I mean, Bennett's been there and done that. He coached New Zealand for 6 games in 2007. He was an assistant when they won the 2008.
Not an assistant, a consultant.
A consultant, sorry. John, I sort of think, he's had a go. Stacey Jones is a Kiwi legend. I think he deserves a crack at it, John. I don't mind the decision, actually.
To be honest, I couldn't care less as long as Australia win the next whatever they play. I don't care who coaches it. I would feel bad for Stacey Jones if he gets pumped over and over and over again by Australia, and then that's his coaching debut.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Michael Maguire's set the bar higher for the next New Zealand coach and winning that Pacific Championships final. So, it's a 3-year deal for Stacey Jones, so he's got a bit of time there.
It's into the next World Cup, yeah. He'll see through the next World Cup.
Yeah, I think the next one is. I actually think it is 2026, John.
Yeah, it is. And I would hope he surrounds himself with people like, Benji Marshall will probably make a great assistant. Other guys like that, then he can help. That can help Kiwi stay competitive but still lose. That's the only thing. I love Stacey Jones, man. My fondest memory of Stacey Jones is actually, I think it was against the Dragons, where they packed down for a scrum. Stacey Jones fed the ball properly, not through the second rows, he fed it straight through, and then immediately ran around the scrum and screamed out, like the ball was out. And I'm pretty sure it was the Dragons. The Dragons collapsed the scrum and gave the Warriors a penalty. The craftiness, the sneaky, those kind of little grubby tactics I loved about him. I always loved him. That always stands out to me. As you see him feed it and he starts running, I'm like, what is he doing? And then the Dragons, I'm pretty sure it was the Dragons, just collapsed the scrum. What the hell? And then you hear over the microphone, they're like, have a listen to this. Stacey Jones, out! It's yeah. So, I hope he doesn't get screwed by being put in a bad position. But yeah, Michael Maguire set up some systems and everything over there, so hopefully he does well. Just lose to Australia, please. That's all.
Well, he set the bar high at Maguire, so there's big expectations for Stacey Jones. Hopefully he's up to it, John.
And continuing on with decisions that the NRL make that nobody agrees with, they've announced that every field goal will now be reviewed by the bunker, just like every try is reviewed by the bunker, because every try is actually reviewed by the bunker, and until the conversion attempt is made, the bunker can call down to the ref to overrule it. They're going to have the same thing with the field goals. Can you remember in history any time where we've had to do a video ref for a field goal?
It's funny you mention it, John. The one that I can remember was 1998 prelim final when Parramatta led the Bulldogs 18-2 with 11 minutes to go. The Bulldogs made a remarkable comeback, got to 18-all in regular time. And then, if you can believe it, after the siren, a player by, I'm not sure if you remember him, John, a player by the name of Paul Carriage, he was Parramatta's fullback. That day, it was just a horror show from Paul Carriage. He had an absolute shocker that day. And so, anyway, Carriage, on the last play of the game, he's got the ball at fullback and he's kicked over the top, if you can believe that. And so then the Bulldogs have got the ball and it's after the siren, 18-all. And they've got a chance at field goal. So I think Craig Polamalu's taken the shot at field goal. And they didn't know if the ball had gone over the crossbar or not. And so Bill Harrigan, who was refereeing, stopped the game, if that's possible, when the siren's already gone. And they actually looked very closely at it. And the video ref determined that it had just gone under the bar. And then the Bulldogs went on to win in extra time. But that's, to be honest, John, that's the only time, and that's a long time ago too. That's the only time I can remember where the video referee has got involved in a field goal attempt. But if it's ever going to get involved, I guess maybe that's the time. 18-all in the prelim final.
Highlights exactly why they don't need to review every field goal. This is a ridiculous thing. Like, I can't imagine any field goals being overturned by the bunker. But the fact that they're going to get the bunker to review every field goal is beyond ridiculous. Are they going to get them to review every conversion from now on too?
Well, this is the thing, John, and we can talk about the field goals, we can talk about tries, we can even bring goals into it. Every time the technology, the bunker intervenes, that wastes more time, and that comes at the expense of the spectacle. We talked about a week or two ago how boring the Super Bowl was, John. And why was it boring? Because
stoppages.
Because of the stoppages. So if we decide to stop the game at every opportunity, it's going to cause these issues, John. As I said, every intervention by the bunker comes at the expense of the flow of the spectacle for the fans. And the more they encroach on it, the more they stop the game, the more boring it is for the fans. So at some point you have to say, look, maybe it's not all about getting it right. Maybe having a game that flows, where there's not a lot of stoppages, is more important than getting it right. Maybe it is, because the game primarily is about entertainment for the fans. The game being stopped all the time by the bunker reviewing everything and now field goals, that's not entertaining for the fans, John.
It's such a bizarre decision. Honestly, it's such a bizarre decision. Why on earth does anyone need to review field goals? Everybody knows when they got them. What is there to review? Offside?
Seriously.
You can kick a field goal from an offside position, right?
Yeah.
Not like you can't be offside, but all your players can be offside and you can still kick a field goal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's beyond ridiculous. And they're also talking about bringing in the forward pass technology and all that kind of stuff. They already have this technology. Draw a line on the screen. You do it with knock-ons. Draw a line on the screen. Did it go forward? Yes. The end. Yeah. You don't need new technology to do this.
I'm against bunker intervention, John, on all levels. The less of it, the better for me. So far as to say, John, that if I'm not going to criticise a referee who makes a decision on his own and backs himself if he makes a mistake, I'm not going to criticise him, because I want less bunker intervention, and I'm willing to put up with mistakes from the referee if it means less bunker intervention, because that's more entertaining than I'd rather the referee just make a decision and maybe get a few more wrong and have the game flow than have the bunker intervene all the time and trying to get it right more of the time, which they don't anyway, John.
Yeah, that's what Craig Gower was saying.
I said that with Craig Gower the other night.
Yeah, that's actually the problem. Like, the major problem with the bunker is they take too much time to still get it wrong. And I think, Craig Gowie had a point, like, you know, if you're looking at it for a minute and a half, it's 50-50 call. And I know, like, years and years ago on Sunday Roast, Vossi and Matty Johns and stuff like that were going on about how they should put a shot clock on these video referees, actually. You got 30 seconds, or you can only look at it 3 times, or something like that. Because it does just take away from the entertainment. And it's just, again, another rule that's been implemented, another change that's been implemented, that look at the internet sentiment, and nobody agrees with it. No media personality, current players wouldn't say anything. Ex-players, internet, Reddit and Instagram and stuff, people, TikTokers, anything, no one agrees with it. But there's, you know, I myself a TikTok conspiracy. The conspiracy has resurfaced that the reason they're doing it is because, you know, in the few years ago, there was an increase in video referee checks for tries, and the conspiracy then was that KFC had demanded
to get
more because it's a KFC video ref. So the TikTok conspiracy has already popped up about this. Like, it's so KFC can get more time on TV. But that is why the Super Bowl has so many stoppages. I talked to a few, like, American and big American football fans recently, and you know, you talk about olden days and stuff like that. In the olden days, the NFL didn't have so many stoppages. They would just flow because there wasn't the sheer amount of investment in putting ads in everywhere. So they have so much more and longer stoppages to enable for ads. And this kind of stuff, man, leads me to believe that it is flat Earth. You know? It's the TikTok conspiracy theories around KFC getting more TV time in the NRL have led me down a rabbit hole to believe in the flat Earth. I can't imagine there being any. At the end of the year, I'm going to make a note. At the end of the year, I'm going to have a count. Throughout the year, I'm going to have a count every week how many field goals were interfered with by the bunker. Yeah. Every week, end of the rugby league section, 0. Like, what a stupid rule.
Yeah, I have a feeling, John, that this is not going to be the last time we're going to be talking about the bunker this season.
Oh, for sure not.
Definitely not. John, they seem to just. I think the thing that annoys me is they don't get it. They're obsessed with getting it right at all costs, and it's not about. To me, it's not about that. To me, it's about going right. We're going to just back the referee in here, realise that a few more mistakes are going to be made, but being mature enough to realise that the referees are human beings, they're going to make mistakes. There might be a few more mistakes, okay, but we're going to have a game that flows, and that's more important than getting it right at all costs. But they don't get it, John. They don't understand that. They're obsessed with getting it right. They think getting it right is the only cause for concern here.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. And as I said, you look at internet sentiment, ex-players, media personalities. Like, nobody agrees with this kind of stuff. So,
John, I would rather if you go right, put an in-goal judge at either end of the ground.
Just stands under the post.
Yeah, put in-goal judges at either end to help out the refs and the touch judges. I would prefer it if they got 75% of calls right, not relying on the bunker, just relying on the on-field officials, than get 95% right with use of the bunker and the bunker interrupting all the time. I'd rather just accept that the officials, the on-field officials, make mistakes as a fact of life and have a game that flows than have these interruptions all the time, boring, obsessed with getting it right. And I'm just sick of it, John.
There was one comment I saw on Reddit that was when everyone was saying, like, we don't want to have the bunker interfering with everything. They said, somebody said, if the bunker doesn't interfere a lot and get a lot wrong, then Ricky Stewart won't have an excuse as to why Canberra loses.
There you go. You've cracked it.
Yeah. So, yeah. As I said, I'm fully going to put this every week. It's going on the rundown bunker watch for field goals. And every day a week, we're going to say how many times they've interfered. And if it's 0 at the end of the year, it just shows it's a stupid thing they've implemented. To give KFC more.
Field goals are not very commonplace in the game either. So of all the things to focus, obviously they're going to have a big crackdown on this for a little while, and then they'll probably just forget about it after. I just
really wonder
3 or 4 weeks.
What are they looking for in a field goal? What field goal was wrong?
It's just something that doesn't happen very often in a game. So this is where their focus has been.
Which field goal was conclusively decided a pivotal game that made us need to have the bunker look at every single field goal? Which field goal was it? Because whichever one it was, sack the player. On to our JWH watch. I always love it when JWH is in the news. Now, he's not a Donald Trump of rugby league or anything like that. He's always got an interesting news story attached to him, though. It's nothing he says. So he announced his retirement the other day. He'll be finishing up at the end of this year. And then the next day he announced he's signed with Whole KR. So his retirement was a day long.
Yeah.
So in the end, he's retiring from the NRL. He's had a great career, won 45 premierships, it seems like. Played for 2 clubs. He won 3, right?
Craig, I'm pretty sure...
3 or 4.
I'm pretty sure Johnny would have been there in 2013 at the Roosters. He was definitely there in 18 and 19. So off the top of my head, John, I would say that it's 3, but we will do a check on that.
So he was at Manly 2009 when they didn't win.
Do you want to just scroll
Wait,
down
I'm looking
the
at
bottom of his page, John?
Is that him?
See if he was in the...
Yeah, that is him.
Scroll to the bottom of
Did he only play 6 games for Manly in 2009 in his debut year?
Yeah, let's just see if you scroll right to the bottom, it'll show... if you go Sydney Roosters squads, the second one there, 2013, 2018. Yeah, he was in all 3 of those Roosters premierships there, John.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, it's a good way of quickly finding out how many premierships players have won. So, yeah, he was in all 3 of those.
So he also ran the 2010 Four Nations.
Right, yeah.
And that's it for New Zealand. Well, seriously, it's so funny. Like I didn't realize he only played 6 games for Manly. I seem to remember him as a Manly staple, but only 6 games in 2009. Yeah,
John, Craig Gower seemed to rate him pretty. We brought him up on the podcast the other night. Craig Gower seemed to be very high in his praise of JWA.
Yeah, I love him. Like he's running off the back fence, smashing people over. It's just his discipline is a little.
That's the thing. I guess something. That's the thing. If the Roosters are happy with you, they keep you.
Yeah, so exactly.
Obviously, he's got someone's nose out of joint at the Roosters, and I suspect, John, it's the long list of. It's obviously not his playing ability. We all know he can play, but obviously it's the long list of suspensions, John.
Yeah.
We know he had that 7-game suspension that he's still serving. He's got to serve a week of that for those 2 charges in that round 26 game against the Tigers last year.
Yep.
So it's just so many suspensions, John, and I think they got to a point where we need you on the field. You're not on the field enough, so it's just not worth our while having you.
And I think he's on a big pay package. He's also 35, so
yeah, he's getting on.
Just turned 35. He'd be 36 next year.
It's a combination of age and suspensions.
Yeah, we can go and play with all KR and maybe win a premiership with them. They haven't won a premiership. Another big unit, we discussed it last week. Luciano Leilua had announced that he was seeking an immediate release from the Cowboys to join the Dragons. There was a late last-minute offer from Ricky Stewart's Canberra Raiders to get him down there for a massive pay packet. but he ended up going to the Dragons for a massive pay packet.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. It is a reduced amount for 2024 because the Cowboys have already paid him for 4 months. So he'll be on $500,000 this year, and then I believe it's $750 next year and the year after or more.
Actually, I read it was 900.
Yeah,
for
900. Yeah, it was 900.
Yeah.
900 each year. So it's in the millions, $2.3 million for 3 years. That's Flano has now signed a few players. It's pending a medical.
Right.
They learned that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's a good bench impact for, I don't know, maybe Flano's looking to make it. Because for that coin, you'd think he'd be a starting.
It just seems to me, John, that they are paying overs for him there. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think for that kind of coin, you'd think he'd be a starting back rower or front rower. No, not front rower. He's a back rower, bench impact player. You can't see him running off the bench for $900,000 a year. You'd have to be a starter. Who's he going to take the place of? Who knows? Well, we'll see what happens. He's moved there straight away.
I think if you factor in that they're only paying $500 this year and the two $900s the 2 years after, it works out to about $760 a season. $760
a season for a bench player is.
I think they're gone overs there, John. I think they're paid too much for
unless Flano sees something in him for.
He must, otherwise he wouldn't be forking out that sort of cash.
But he's not named to play this week. So he'll be their first round.
Yeah, I guess, it's only just happened, hasn't it? So maybe they haven't got all the...
pending medical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got to have a medical.
And teams have been named for the trials, so he can't be put in for this week. He'll be in for the first round, and we'll see what position he plays in. In other news, your Bulldogs have sacked... Well, I love the... news articles. Matt Burton and Reid Marnie let go. I saw headlines like that. Matt Burton and Reid Marnie cut loose. Dropped.
Oh, just replaced as captain. A bit of clickbait.
I was like, what?
Yeah, a bit of clickbait. Yeah.
Stephen Crichton has been named the Bulldogs captain for 2024. Oh, okay.
The clickbait websites were...
they got me. They got me good.
At their best for that one, John. John, I like the decision. I agree with the decision. I've got to be honest. I think Reid Marnie was disappointing last year. I feel like they didn't get enough out of him. I think Matt Burton's been disappointing as well since he's been at the Bulldogs. So they didn't get enough out of both those two players last year. They had an underachieving season where they finished third last, where a lot of people expected them to get close to making the top 8. And so Cameron Ciraldo's taken action. He's appointed captain, a man who's scored 56 tries in 100 NRL games. So he scores more than one try every 2 games. New South Wales Origin representative, 3-time premiership winner. So he sort of made a statement with that appointment. I like it, John. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea what the captain does except
toss the
coin and talk to the referee, but it seems like every player will talk to the referee. So I don't know what impact it has. Do they get paid more? Like, I don't know. Because in today's game, especially, I know in the olden days you'd have captain coach and the captain would be heavily involved in training and everything. But in today's game, you got the trainer running out the back, shouting the commands from the coach and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. I'd love to get insight from a modern game player. But to me, it just seems like a kind of ceremonial thing anyway. So who cares? And I don't see why Matt Burton or Reid Marnie would be affected by it.
Obviously the rugby league captain is not as big a job as, say, the cricket captain, for example, which the cricket captain, essentially, you're a captain coach of a cricket team. The captain's also the coach, basically. Yeah. Clearly, the rugby league captain is not as big a job, but I think more than anything, John, I think it just sort of sends a message to the other players that, well, this is a different direction that we're going. Like you said, Is it really going to change a whole lot on the field? Probably not, but it just sends a message to say, look, we're turning the page here, and we're bringing a man who's won 3 straight premierships, who's joined the club from a winning culture. We're making him our captain. So get on board. I think it's a way of sending a message to the team. Look, get on board with us here. We're going in a new direction.
Yeah, they'd better get on board.
I just think, John, there was just one other thing I wanted to add. I just thought that whole, like, Phil Gould saying, last year was always going to be a tough year and they should have waited another year to sign Serraldo. I mean, what a load of rubbish, John. I mean, they beat Melbourne 26-12 in round 2 last year. And then, so that they had that capability, and then everyone just turned around and said, it was always going to be a hard year. Like who was buying that, John?
No, I really believe it because I heard it before the year. It was before the year. I really believe that was the thing. They knew they were going to go terribly. That was the last year, like, because I go to the Bulldogs business member. I go to the Bulldogs events and stuff like that. They basically said at the beginning of the year, at the season launch, it was going to be a hard year. It's the end of, but it will be the end of the downtime. It's the last, it's well publicized now that it's the last year that they've. Last person from the Des Hasler era is gone, or whatever it was.
It's a completely new squad.
Yeah, and I've been saying that's why I write off this year for Cameron Serraldo completely and don't count it, even though it's only in his stats. They said before when he was signed, he was told by multiple people not to go there that year. I fully actually, but that's the one thing that I fully believe. Right. They all, but they didn't want to. They obviously can't admit it. Like walk out at the beginning of the year and say publicly, "We're probably going to get the spoon this year, guys." Yeah. But I just thought they did it. They expected to not go well. I know everybody else in the world expected them to go better than they did, but I kind of get the feeling they even expected to go worse than they did, based on what I've heard recently. Beat
Melbourne 26-12 in round 2, and that Melbourne team.
I wonder what the odds were.
The prelim final.
I wonder what the odds were. I wonder if I can look at them. I might be able to look that up on SmartB.
So it was round 2 last season. They beat Melbourne 26-12. I'm pretty sure the game was in Melbourne too.
2000. Oh God, I hate stupid ads. I'm really actually curious what the odds were. I think we might be able to see it. 2023
round 2
Bulldogs. I guess Storm. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's moving slowly. That NRL website.
It always
John.
does.
Yeah, it's.
Telstra owns the.
Maybe Vlandys should work on getting the website right before he comes out and says it's the number one.
Telstra owns the rights to the digital distribution for the NRL and all its teams. I just need to know the date.
It would have been March. I'm trying to think, March something last year.
Yeah, who knows? Oh, now the whole website, NRL website's down. Oh, there we go. Now it's back. But it's in like weird set. I'm now in 2024 again. Honestly, guys, just our opinion. Round 2, 2023 Storm. Oh, that's the pre-season challenge.
Yeah, so no one knows that website.
Now I've got to change all of my settings again. This is riveting television. Storm.
Oh, well,
no, it's just died again.
Don't worry about it, John. We won't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
But anyway, I'm really curious. Like that's why I'm really invested in how the Bulldogs go this year. So many changes, and I'm giving. This is Cameron Serraldo's first year in charge. First year for me. Okay. Phil Gould's last if they fail.
It's just it's been a frustrating time, John. That's 7 straight seasons they haven't made the 8. And I know Serraldo's only just come in. I know he's only been there for a year. But we have heard a similar sort of line out of the club for a number of years now. Oh, this is the year where it's going to change. This is the year where it's going to change.
Definitely.
And so after a while, you sort of just get tired of that rhetoric, John.
Oh, definitely.
And you go, look, we just want to see some results now.
It's time for results.
We're absolutely at that point now. Another failed season this year, and I don't know where they go from there, John.
No, it's time for results. It is absolutely time for results.
Yeah.
They can't continue as they have been. And that's pretty much it. All right, it was the 11th of March. I'll see if I've got odds on it.
There you go.
It was loading. After all that, there we go.
The back five looks good this year, though, John.
So Melbourne paid $1.36 to Canterbury Bulldogs, $3.20, and I would hazard a guess that was with Bet365. So they were $1.36 favourites, and the Bulldogs managed to pull an upset. Of course, that set Bulldogs fans up for oi, what's going on here? And then there was a massive disappointment for the rest of the year. So I can totally understand where all Bulldogs fans are coming from. It just really is the one thing that I definitely believe. I mentioned it as like my conspiracy theory, actually. And now maybe they've been listening to the podcast and heard me say it. Like I thought that perhaps they knew that they were going to go really badly. Like, when I went to the things pre-events and stuff, pre-season events and stuff like that, they were talking about, it was the continued line that I had heard for the past few years. You've got to go down before you go up. Our juniors are going well. We've recruited well. We've got a new coach. It's up from here, blah, 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 blah. But then, reports came out that Cameron Ciraldo was told even by Phil Gould not to come that year. He loves a challenge, though, and he wanted to do it and so on and so forth. And then I started to form that TikTok conspiracy in my head that they knew and they expected a wooden spoon. And now they've basically come out and said they expected to go badly. So, yeah, I think they're listening to me. By the way, guys, a TikTok conspiracy theorist is not a legitimate source. And I'm basically a TikTok conspiracy theorist. We'll see how Bulldogs go. Their season launches next week, and I am attending, actually.
Yeah, nice.
So Anthony Seibold and Jason Demetriou, hate each other. They've hated each other for ages. And they've decided to surface their hatred for each other.
Yes.
Guys.
Yeah. So Seibold had a crack at Demetriou. Demetriou's had a crack back. He's denied suggestions that the Rabbitohs are failing to promote the double header in Las Vegas, John. So Seibold questioned why the Rabbitohs weren't going to be in Vegas promoting the spectacle. Seibold's quote was, "It would be nice if the Bunnies came to Las Vegas to promote the game." I think Demetriou joked that he'd put some money behind the bar for Manly players in Vegas before the two teams clash in the first match of 2024. Demetriou said, look, it should have been obvious his comment was tongue-in-cheek. Demetriou told the Daily Telegraph, quote, "I'm not going to buy into it, really." It's interesting, John, because Seibold was also quoted as saying, "I'm not concerned about other clubs." Well, clearly you are. Yeah, you've singled out South Sydney.
I'm not racist, but...
Yeah, so clearly you are concerned about other clubs. John, these two guys have got a lot to prove as NRL coaches, I think. Yeah. I don't know how Demetriou missed the top 8 in 2023 with that roster, especially after he led the competition after 11 rounds. He's on thin ice, John. He can't afford to start the season poorly. And Seibold finished 12th in his first year at Manly. He was lucky to even get the gig, John. He didn't even make it 2 years into a 5-year Broncos contract. And Seibold's there mouthing off at...
Seibold was, if you remember, was the most improved coach at the Rabbitohs, though. I mean, coach of the year, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long time ago now, John.
Yeah. It's, it doesn't, unfortunately to me, it doesn't even make for a fiery match because I'm sure the players don't care about what their coaches say to each other, actually. Yeah. What I would prefer is if Tom Trbojevic came out and said something about how Latrell Mitchell isn't the best fullback in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a surprise.
Well, I mean, Tom Trbojevic isn't going to say anything like that. He's way too nice of a guy.
It's not a surprise that they've teed off on each other. Clearly, they can't stand each other.
Yeah.
But there's something a bit funny about Seibold, isn't there? He seems to be very thin-skinned. He seems to let things... Yeah, he seems to let things get to him very easily. I mean, the way he just collapsed at the Broncos. Geez, if I was Manly, John, I'd be looking. I wouldn't be hiring a coach who faded out like that. Not even making it 2 years into.
Well, he still blames the Broncos, right? Like he blames the culture there, the lack of control, everything like that.
He must be a really good talker in job interviews, John. There's got to be some way how he managed to get another job after that.
We'll see if he's actually a good coach this year. But if he is a good coach, he would have spent the last year trying to solve Manly's salary cap issues where they invest too much money in 4 players. 4 now? 4.
I think it's almost up to 6 now, John. I mean, you got DC, you got Tom Turbo, Jake Turbo, you got Ola Kawatu, Luke Brooks, and Schuster. I think that's your 6 who are on huge coin. So, yeah, John, he can't afford a poor start. Yeah. This is absolutely his last chance. If he bombs out at Manly and gets sacked, there's no way he's going to get another first
definitely not.
Gig,
that'll be the end of him.
Gig.
Yeah, he'll just go off and be an assistant somewhere.
Yeah.
But onwards and upwards, that game is next Saturday. 1:30 p.m.
Oh, so I think it's Sunday our time.
Oh, Sunday. Sunday our time.
1:30 p.m. Yep.
1:30 p.m. Yep. But our friend Paul Kent, friend of the show, even though I've never met the guy, he has it's been announced that he will return to NRL 360.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a bit of a go at him maybe a week or two ago, John, when we were talking about how he's got that agenda where he just favours Ricky Stewart all the time with everything he says. But, I mean, obviously we're putting that to one side here, John. I think it's the right decision.
Should never have been sacked.
He should be he's been found not guilty, so he should be reinstated into his job.
Yep, should never have been sacked.
I think it's the fair outcome, John. We were a bit worried that he wasn't going to get his job back. We were worried that those social media keyboard heroes were going to prevent him from making a return and just hound him out of the game. But I think it's great to see that he's been reinstated, John. And it's a fair and just outcome.
I actually really like his commentary about not just rugby league but also boxing, because he's a big boxing aficionado.
Yeah, he's very entertaining, John. Yeah. He's strongly opinionated, and you tune in to watch what he says.
Exactly.
It's just a pity his Ricky Stewart comments are so biased. But apart from that, he's really good to listen to, John. So it'll be good to listen to him again once the season gets underway and NRL 360 comes back on.
But moving to another opinionated old man, Peter Fitzsimmons has taken a swipe at the NRL Vegas push. Well, let me just rephrase that. Bitter old man who yells at clouds, Peter Fitzsimmons, takes swipe at clouds.
Yeah, John, I just think, the article, the headline of the article was NRL Flavour of the Month in Las Vegas, don't believe the hype. So, I mean, you know what the article was going to be about just by reading the headline.
I already know the article based on the article by Peter Fitzsimmons.
This is what I don't understand, John. What I don't get is that obviously the Herald now is owned by Channel 9. It's their newspaper. The NRL is Channel 9's product. So why would you be having a columnist who just seems to just trash the game at every opportunity, writing in your newspaper? Again, the Herald is not Fairfax anymore. It's not independent anymore, unfortunately. It's now owned and run by Channel 9. And so if I'm running Channel 9, John, I'm going, well, I don't want somebody who's trashing rugby league to be writing these columns in my newspaper. And I would have thought, he's an ex-rugby union player, John. I would have thought he'd stick to rugby union. Oh, that's right. No one cares about rugby union.
Yeah, that's okay. What I find it more that, he's trashing of rugby league is just, to me, is just a jealous guy who realises his game, that he's the expert in.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing. So what...
from us, we constantly get, you constantly get the comments on the internet, oh, these guys have never pulled on a jersey. And that's what it ends up being with him, right? When he talks about NRL, AFL, anything, people will say, what does he know? He's never put on a jersey. Well, he has to write about stuff like the NRL, because if he wrote about rugby union, he wouldn't have a job. Yeah. He'd get no ratings. So
that's the thing. So you got somebody who's essentially your lead. You're a Channel 9 owned and run newspaper that you own the rights to the NRL, the free to air broadcast rights, and you've got your lead sports columnist who trashes your product at every opportunity, as he's done again there, and who played a code that's no longer cared about in this country. So I would have thought there's a lot of other people who would be in the frame to take that job ahead of Peter Fitzsimons.
I think so.
John.
Old man yells at clouds. That could just be the article, the headline for all of his articles, to be honest. Old man yells at clouds.
Yeah.
By Peter Fitzsimmons.
Yeah, I mean, John, if you were running Channel 9, you'd be doing something about it, wouldn't you? I mean, don't go trashing our product.
He's on Wide World of Sports constantly arguing with NRL players about how bad NRL is. Like, it's just, I can't pay any attention to anything
this is not the Herald of old. This is not Fairfax Herald. This is Channel 9 Herald. It's under new management. And I think they need a new columnist.
Yeah, I agree. They should get Paul Gallen to do it, because when he trashes the NRL, you got to stand up and pay attention, because he said the standard of the trial games has been terrible. Now, Gal, they always are.
I mean, I can't disagree with him, John. I completely watched that Bulldogs Storm game at Belmore the other night. Yeah, that was pretty clunky and ordinary.
I watched the Charity Shield. It was awful.
The Charity Shield. The first half of the Charity Shield was awful.
The second half was also awful.
There were no tries until the last 5 minutes of the first half, and both tries were scored from errors.
Yeah. The Dragons had Tyrell Sloan trying way too hard, dropping so much ball. The Rabbitohs had players trying way too hard, dropping so much ball. But I think you mentioned it like a couple of weeks ago about the Bulldogs. Might have been about the Bulldogs, like players trying too hard in that Melbourne game because they're the fringe first graders. They're battling for spots, and the quality of trials is always not as good as NRL. But that Charity Shield game, I think really the telling point was at half time when the teams returned to the field. Ben Hunt had already showered and was in his polo shirt and stuff. That is the quality of the trial games. I know the first half was awful. It was so hard to watch. Look, to be honest, what it reminded me of, what I've talked about it before, the first season of the NRLW. Like, that was the quality, like terrible. The NRLW is amazing now, but when it first started, it was terrible, and that's what it was. And then the game was in the balance at 6-6, and they took Ben Hunt off, not just as like, we'll take him off and give him a rest in case we can bring him back on. It was, your game night is done. You're not injured, you're off. And that's how little the clubs care about the trial games. It's the $100,000 prize obviously isn't doing anything. But Paul Gallen's 100% right. That Charity Shield I watched, I have been to like 10 of them. I was going to go this year, but I couldn't. But it was unwatchable dross. It was awful football. Yeah.
Gallen's quote was, "I think the days of trial games are over." That's the thing, John. We've sort of bemoaned not having anything on TV, so isn't it better to watch trials than watch nothing? I don't know, John, but put it this way, John. I had to cover the Charity Shield the other night. If I didn't have to cover it, I don't think I would have been watching too much of it.
I only watched it because it's the Dragons, and I like the like I said a bit to open it. Quality trials is always bad, but they have been watchable in the past, and adding them to the television thing has been like I got excited because. Used to go to the Charity Shield. It was awesome. It was a good quality game. Both teams will play most of their top players. If the game wasn't in the balance and it was a smashing, because the Rabbitohs normally smash Dragons with it in it, then all the good players would come off for the Dragons and the Rabbitohs. And you'd be like, all right, that's fine. They'd have like 30-man teams and unlimited interchange and all that, but this game would still be entertaining. What has happened this year, the poor quality has made it so the game isn't entertaining. And unless the clubs, players, and league get invested in the trial games and make them quality, there's no point in televising them all. You can go back to the days where they weren't televised, and we can go back to watching rugby union for 2 weeks. Nah. That's just gone too far.
That's the thing. Would you rather watch NRL trials or rugby union? I'd take
those trials, I can't watch any. Because my one attempt, I watched that Bulldogs game, which, as I said in the car, wasn't that good, but it was pretty good. And then I watched the Charity Shield. If this week any of them are like the Charity Shield, I won't watch next year. I'll just skip it and do other things.
I think the advantage. I think this week the advantage will be that first trial often they rest a lot of their best players. The second trial is when they do treat it as a proper dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
With the exception this year, obviously, of those teams playing in Vegas who have had to are putting out unrecognisable sides this weekend. So I sort of, to be honest, John, I don't even know, and I know they're trying to make it this official thing now, the pre-season challenge, and they've got this $100,000 a year prize for it.
Well, Knights are winning.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know that's in place, John, but I sort of look at it and I go, well, why are the Vegas clubs playing trials this week if they're only going to put out these second or third string teams? But that having been said, John, as for the other teams, I think this weekend, from what I've seen, the team lists I've seen, that more teams are taking this weekend seriously, and I'm hoping the quality will be a lot better this weekend than it was last weekend.
And I also think they got to get Zach Lomax off the wing. He was the best player on the field for the Dragons.
So where should he go?
Into the centres. Yeah, okay. Like, that's his spot. When they announced that Jack Bird was going to play and Zach Lomax would be on the wing or fullback, I thought, I've discussed, like, obviously Zach Lomax I don't think is a fullback, but he's definitely not a winger. He was tried to get in everything, which he does, but, the problem with putting him on the wing is he's way overpaid for a winger and he's not able to involve himself like he did as a centre because there's a centre in the way. Yeah, so anyway, that's Rugby League for the week. Yep, for the week. We'll see how the trials go over the weekend and discuss them on Monday. Hopefully we do see some better games. There's the New Zealand-Australia T20 first game?
Yeah, it was the first game.
Happened, and the second game is today.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, John, yeah.
And...
Yeah. So, Tim David hit a 4 off the last ball to win.
It was... Well, it was... That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Not I've ever seen, but it was the most amazing thing in the match.
Did you see it live?
No, not live. I already watched it since then. But then I rewatched the match. The last, what was it? He needed 34 off. I can't remember what it was.
David, 31 not out off 10 balls.
Yeah, but that's what he needed to win.
So that when he came out, Australia needed 44 off 19.
Yeah.
And off the last 2 overs, they needed 35. But that became 15 off the last 6 balls after David hit 2 sixes in a row.
I think his whole thing was amazing. But then the 4 off the last ball looked sus. Fucking looked so suspect. Under nines fielding in play,
Something going on there, John.
Yeah, like it looks up, but it was an amazing knock.
The thing that he would have been annoyed about the fieldsman is he got there. He got to the ball. That's what. It wasn't as if he didn't get to it. Why he didn't just sort of plonk his body on the ground and put his body in between, the ball and the rope.
Exactly. It looked
I couldn't work it out.
Under nines fielding decision, but it was a good knock. Like the whole thing. So like, it's the fact that the whole, who was it? What was the guy?
Tim David.
Yeah, Tim David. Like his whole innings was awesome, and he capped it off with such an amazing thing that everyone's forgotten about the fact that Australia was out. Like they weren't going to make it basically, and then he managed to turn it around. Australia's favourite for the next game tonight. We can do a quick odds check. It's tonight, right?
Mitch Marsh. I'm pretty sure it's tonight, John. Mitch Marsh claimed man of the match honours with 72 not out as well, John.
He was very good. It is tonight. I don't know have odds on it. I've got no odds at all on SmartB right now. I'm just going to. I know why England isn't appearing. Sorry, we'll get that fixed for all of our watches.
Yeah, I mean, John, I know we don't really care about this series, but I mean, that was a great finish. I did actually see it live.
Yeah.
I just got home from work and plonked down, had my dinner, and managed to watch the end of it. So yeah, I got to see it live, which was very entertaining viewing, John.
Yep,
Thrilling finish.
It was. That's why I watched it because I heard it was so thrilling, and so I watched it, and it was like really, really good. The whole match was really good. Looking good for us for the T20 World Cup. We do have a cricket ambassador to announce soon that will come in and go through things like IPL and stuff with us too. Yeah, so that's it for cricket. Game is tonight. I know Australia is heavy favourites to win. I don't know why they're heavy favourites.
Yeah, I don't know about heavy favouritism.
There's like a 63% chance of winning, so it's...
I don't know whether I'd be touching that.
No. Nothing happened in AFL. I did see Kane Cornes publish some articles criticising some teams, clubs and players, but they weren't very entertaining, so nothing happened this week.
As per the usual, it's pretty standard for Kane Cornes to be... critical.
Exactly.
I mean,
not
that I don't really have anything against that.
No.
It's entertaining, but yeah, as you said, it's always of clubs and players. It's never of the AFL itself.
It creates news, but none of them were interesting, so I didn't care. I didn't put them in. So yeah, we went here for Monday. We had the special 50th episode. So just for the quick UFC 298 recap, it did end up being a cracker of a card. So out of the tips, Jake O'Driscoll pipped me. He got 3 out of 5. I got 2 out of 5. Jake would have got 4 if Alex Volkanovski hadn't lost to Illa Topuria. So Alex Volkanovski is no longer the champion. This, for the whole day, every betting favourite won except for Alex Volkanovski for the championship belt.
Oh, right, wow.
That's what I mean. Like, Jake would have got 4. Everybody thought Alex was going to win. Yeah. Because Illa Topuria hasn't fought anybody of Alex Volkanovski's caliber on his undefeated run to the belt. Everybody hates Illa Topuria because he's like a Conor McGregor from Wish. Like he's the guy that when he was 14-0 leading into the fight, and like a month ago or something, he changed his Instagram to 15-0 world champion before the fight had even happened. It was so cringeworthy. Unfortunately, it came through. He hired a video crew to follow him around and make a documentary of his pathway to victory, like Conor McGregor did. It was cool when Conor McGregor did it, but now it's just lame when anyone else does it.
Is it fair to say UFC tipping would be a fair bit harder than, say, footy tipping?
Yes, it is, because whatever, like, that's why the multis, even an 8 full round multi for NRL will often be less value than a 5-round multi for a UFC main card, 5-match multi, because in rugby league or a team-based sport or a 90-minute sport or something like that, there's no equivalent to anything can happen. Okay? If you get down, right, and you get smashed, you can't come back. You can come back in NRL. Like Broncos in the grand final. Broncos were going to win. Panthers can come back, okay? That's not a individualized anything can happen moment. In UFC and all combat sports, if you are getting beat up for 2 rounds, it's not likely you're going to pull off an upset. But then there are anything can happen moments where you can just, they call it pushing the button. They hit the button, get you perfectly on that like chin, something like that, pull off an incredible upset. And like I said, out of all of these fights, every single one of them the betting favourite one, except for Illa Topuria knocked out Alex Volkanovski by hitting him right on the button. Yeah, right. You can look at things like, there's the Anderson Silva was getting beat up by Charles Sonnen, and in the last round submitting with a triangle. Because when anything happens in UFC, in combat sports, the match is over. Whereas if anything happens in like a rugby league match, like Nathan Cleary Ezra Mam scores 3 tries. You're like, it's over, but you can come back. If you change it to the equivalent, Anderson Silva throws up and catches Chael Sonnen in a triangle. Chael Sonnen either goes to sleep or loses. Alex Volkanovski won the first round. He was getting a little bit pieced up and then he made adjustments. And I sent a comment to one of my chat groups and I'm like, when all said and done, I reckon Alex Volkanovski is the greatest MMA fighter of all time. The adjustments he just made showed just how much of a great he is. I think when he retires, he'll be up there with that GOAT kind of conversation. But I sent this message.
The interesting
and then
conversation.
2 minutes later, he was unconscious. And of course, all the people in the group reply, question mark, reply, big eyes, emoji. I'm like, doesn't change in the first round, man, because he made the adjustments. But yeah, it is so much harder because of that. You can just have they hit the button, the match is over. If you're losing, hit the button, the match is over. It's not likely that in a if you win 2 rounds and you come back on the third and you haven't knocked the person out, you've lost the 2 rounds. There's no comeback from that. But it can be if you're losing 2 rounds and then you just get a good clean shot along the jawline, hitting all that nerve, shutting them off, they go to sleep. Leon Edwards won the championship against Kamaru Usman after being pieced up and dominated for four rounds and then 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, right.
15 seconds to go. The commentators are saying that he will not be happy with the fight he fought. He was not good. He's finished. Kamaru Usman, he'll never get another title shot. Headshot. What did he say? He even said, headshot, dead. Because he got a kick that dropped Usman out and Usman looked dead.
Oh, wow.
And so, that's why it's hard to tip, because everyone tipped Usman to win.
Yeah.
Usman was going to win.
A lot more unpredictable, a lot more variables than a team sport.
So, Jake would have got 4. I stupidly tipped Henry Cejudo. I shouldn't have. He wasn't the betting favourite. It was a cracker of a card. Absolutely great card. I managed to get back from the birthday party in time to watch the last 4 fights live and then went back and watched the first fight, which both me and Jake tipped wrong. Watch out for UFC 299. Next month where we'll do tips again, and this time I will tip better than Jake. We got some smack talk going. He's insisting it won't happen. He is actually because Jake is such a high level coach, mentor, way more experienced than me, competitor. He's overseas right now competing in a world class competition. He has better analysis than me, but I'm going to get him next time.
You give good analysis, John.
Yeah, but that's he knows more. Basically, I got to give it to him, and you'll see when he comes in April to preview the US 300 card and Subversion. What he knows is way more above me. But still, I'm going to get him on the next fight card. That's it for combat sports. In other sports news, tennis. We're full of tennis. There's some stupid tournament going on right now, and I saw this. My favourite Storm Hunter, who I abandoned after she lost. She stopped playing because she heard a let call, and then the point was awarded to her opponent.
Yep.
And when she queried as to why you called a let, they said the let was from the court next to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
so.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say.
Can't remember the opponent's name.
Yeah, so it was Anna Kalinskaya who ended up winning the match 6-1, 6-2. So
she was well ahead.
So it had little bearing on the outcome. Yeah. But in terms of that decision, John, I think... So, yeah, the let calls come from the court next door. John, for me, it all hinges on... I had a look at the vision, John. It looked to me like the ball wasn't anywhere near the net. So...
Yeah.
But for me, John, it all hinges on whether the umpire heard that let call or not from the next court.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
Because he said it was from the next court.
Okay, well, I think then the point should have been replayed because because it's not a let call is not just about whether the ball touches the net or not. There could be any number of reasons why you would replay the point. And if the call's been made and Storm Hunter's had legitimate reason to think that it was her call and stopped as a result of it, well, then the umpire's really got to come in and say, look, we're just going to play that point again here. You know, it's pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward.
We talk about spirit of the game in cricket, and I argue against all the time spirit of the game because of rules and so on and so forth, right? In tennis, it is in the rules that if the opposing player agrees to replay the point or then they do it, right? And so there's been many publicised many times that, like, Rafael Nadal has given away and said, like, no, we're playing the first point again. We're playing the first serve again because of things like this, right? Now, the umpire, if he didn't want to take responsibility for it, could have said to the opposing player, what do you think? And Storm Hunter was asking her as well. Are you actually going to take the point? And she just wouldn't answer and waved her hand and stuff like that. There are actually spirit of the game rules in tennis that allow the spirit of the game to come into play based on the rules. And in this circumstance, I feel like there is a villain, which is the opposing player, actually, because she could have said, you're right.
Yeah, she could have, but...
especially because you're so far up.
To be honest, John, the report I read, they didn't make clear whether the umpire heard or not. You've said the umpire did hear it. So the umpire's heard it. Well, that's got to be enough of a reason for to play the point again. I mean, I umpire kids' matches, John, and there's any number of reasons why you would replay the point. You would obviously they've got at that level they've got the benefit of technology, Hawkeye, and everything. But we'd replay the point if we're not sure about a line call. We'd do the point again. You could also have a scenario where. One player serves the ball, if you're just umpiring like I do, one player will serve the ball and then the player receiving will call the ball a fault but keep playing the point. And then, the server might then miss the next shot and then you go, well, no, hang on. You've called that the ball was out, was a fault when it wasn't. So that meant that the server thought that the point was, no longer ongoing and stopped.
Exactly.
And so in that example, well, then you just replay the point. And I think this is another example of that. The umpire hears a call of let that from the next court, which is clearly audible. And the umpire could then clearly see reason why Storm Hunter would think that the call was made on that court. So in that scenario, it's pretty straightforward. Just replay the point. Yeah. So you're right. Kalinskaya should have not accepted the point, but the umpire should have, had the gumption to go in and go, well, no, that it's fair enough that we got to replay this. I mean, there was a let call made on the next court, and she clearly heard it and thought that it was our court.
If you watch the video, what happens is like Storm Hunter just doesn't play the ball, right? Because Kalinskaya serves, you clearly hear let. Storm Hunter doesn't play the ball. And then the referee goes, I think it's 30 love, Kalinskaya. And Storm Hunter says, no, you called let. And he says straight away, it was next door. It's the next court. So he heard it. He knew it. He knew what it was. So at that point, he said, as you're saying, he should have said, no, we're going to replay that one.
That's the thing.
And then you go to the next stage where Storm Hunter, because she's not, like, I was talking to the morning about Coco Gauff going on for 5 minutes over a single point. She's not Coco Gauff. She doesn't go off nuts. She just says, like, come on, man. Like, what's going on here? Full Aussie style. And then says to Kalinskaya, are you really going to take that point? Like, seriously, are you really going to take the point? And Kalinskaya just goes, pretends she doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. And then they have to play on. Someone goes, all right. Ends up losing. Doesn't have an effect on the game. No. But
it's an interesting discussion point. I mean, that's the thing. We can talk about Kalinskaya's sportsmanship or whatever, but the umpire could have taken it out of her hands. Exactly. And to be honest, Sean, I will declare the vision that I saw, I didn't have audio on it. I saw the vision but didn't have audio. I watched it on our computer here. I couldn't get the audio.
It's really bad.
But you've heard the audio and the umpire.
You can clearly hear it.
So you can clearly hear it. The umpire's heard it. The umpire should have gone, right, we're replaying this point. And then that easy solution, John.
That tournament, if you have courts so close to each other that they can hear let calls and stuff like that,
it just happens at some
that affects it. They really need to work. They have rules in place for that. You know, we replay the point because it's like if someone in the crowd screamed out "let" and you thought it was "let." You know, like
that's the thing. At some centres, that the courts are very close together. It's not always like the Australian Open where you've got, I think, 3 main stadiums that are, you know.
Yeah, well, if I was at the Australian Open and I was in the crowd and I screamed out "let" when Kalinskaya served, they would have replayed the point. They would have, because crowd interference. Yeah, they have the crowd makes the noise. Well,
yeah, I think they would have.
Yeah. And they should have in the States. Still on tennis, I got a couple on Rafael Nadal is in the news.
Yes. Couple of interesting items here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is he being corrupted by the Saudis? TikTok conspiracies here, man.
Well, John, I mean, as you know, I love Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. I don't dislike him as much as others, but I don't have a lot of time for him, to be totally honest. But I read a quote from Nadal where he seemed to use injuries as an excuse for why Djokovic has had a better record than him. And I'll read the quote out to you. So Nadal said this to Djokovic. He said, and I quote, "Novak breaks the racket, but at the next point, he is 100%. That's why he is the one who has achieved the most in the history of our sport. The numbers don't lie. I would say he is the best in history." We agree with that. Mm-hmm. Then he says, "He has had a better body than mine, and that also counts." Nadal said, as quoted by Marsa and various other sources. Now, John, there's a bit of salt and pepper in that last little statement about him having a better body than mine. Again, John, I love Rafael Nadal. I would love it if Rafael Nadal came back and won 3 more majors and went ahead of Novak Djokovic, as unrealistic as that scenario seems, which it is very unrealistic at this point. It's just not going to happen. But Djokovic is clearly in front of him, John. I've got some numbers for you here. Djokovic leads 30-29 on career head-to-head. I know that's close, but I'll continue. Djokovic has won 24 majors to Nadal's 22. Djokovic, as the current world number 1, has been number 1 for 413 weeks and counting, John. He's the current world number 1. Nadal's been number 1 for 209 weeks. So Djokovic has nearly doubled Nadal's time at world number 1. Djokovic has won a record 7 ATP finals titles. That's the year-end tournament with the 8 best players of the year. Nadal has never won that event, John. Djokovic has won all 4 majors at least 3 times each. Nadal has not. These are stats that are overwhelmingly in Djokovic's favour, John. And I don't like it how I thought Nadal would have been better than that, John, than to bring up his past injuries and essentially use that as an excuse here.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's been corrupted by the Saudis. Now, you can use injuries as a reason or an excuse. Injuries are an excuse. Say excuses are what you say afterwards. A reason is what you say before. He has had, in one stat that Nadal wins out on, he's had way more injuries than Djokovic. But that just comes down to, injuries always come down to strength and conditioning, coaching, diet, sleep, blah, 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 genetics, things like that. And yes, Nadal's had more injuries than Djokovic, and yes, they have gotten in the way of him winning more majors and competing better and being world number 1 and blah, 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 blah. But that is a part of being an athlete, actually. You can't use it. He had have presented it as a reason as opposed to an excuse. When I say that, I mean, if he hadn't have tried to down-note Djokovic's achievements and say that he would have been better if it hadn't been for his injuries, it would have been okay. If he had have said, so basically if he had have talked about himself as opposed to comparing himself to Djokovic, and if he had have said, I feel like I would have achieved more in the sport, I would have been better if my body had held up. Because you look at someone like Tom Trbojevic, we talk about it all the time, right? 2021 Golden Boot. What he did in 2021, not Golden Boot, sorry, Dalian. What he did in 2021 was amazing. That is an injury-free season. If Tom Trbojevic had managed to stay injury-free for his entire career, he would have. We assume he would have gone to the greatest levels of quality of player. Like Craig Gow was saying the other day, the reason he doesn't put Nathan Cleary up there in the Andrew Johns kind of level is because of that total dominance at Origin. Tom Trbojevic could have done that. If Tom Trbojevic came out and said, I think I would have been a better player than Nathan Cleary if I hadn't have been injured so much. You sound like an idiot, mate.
Yeah.
But if he came out and said, injuries have gotten in the way of me achieving my potential, you just go, oh, okay, yeah, they have. They factually have.
Yeah.
But to put in the multiverse what-if bullcrap thing, because even if Nadal had have played, right, if he hadn't have been injured, he can't definitively say he would have beat Djokovic. All the other thing, what Djokovic can respond with is, yeah, but I would have beat him all those times and I'd have an even better record. And both are just as believable, man.
Yeah, you make a good point, John. You do. And John, I even think I've followed the two very closely, watched their whole careers. And I think that even that 30-29 on career head-to-head to Djokovic, to be honest, Sean, I think that flatters Nadal. I would have thought Djokovic would have put more distance between him and Nadal on the head-to-head. I think absolutely more often than not, all things being equal, Djokovic has had the better of Nadal, in my view, John. And again, this is coming from a huge Nadal fan who would love to see him eclipse Djokovic's record.
And that's the thing, like you said, if Rafael Nadal had been fit and played more, Djokovic can easily say, and it's a believable thing, yeah, I would have just beat him more. Like, that's it. If he had played more, I would have just beat him more. Because Djokovic played Nadal in his prime when he was fit, beat him, has that slight winning edge, but they didn't play any more than that. They didn't have any more games.
Yeah.
If they had more games, it's just as believable that Djokovic would have beat him more over Nadal winning more Grand Slams. So
I don't like it, John.
No, I don't either.
I thought Nadal was better than that. I thought he had more class than that, and I'm disappointed that he's made that comment. I think it reflects poorly on him, I have to say.
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too, 100%.
And there's another comment he made, John.
Yeah, this one I feel like he was trolling.
This is very surprising, and this is very revealing as well. Nadal said, and I quote, now we're talking about the other member of the big three, Roger Federer. Nadal said, and I quote, I wouldn't consider him a friend, but someone familiar with whom I have a great relationship. Now, when Federer retired at the Laver Cup in 2022, John, Nadal was there with him. Nadal was in tears. It was, Federer's last tournament. And, we all thought, oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that a nice touch, how he's so upset for his rival? But in light of these comments where he wouldn't consider him a friend, when we thought they were as much as they're rivals, John, we did think, I think with Djokovic it's different. I think there's tension between both of them and Djokovic, but those two, Nadal and Federer, we all thought they were good friends. And now he's come out and said, I wouldn't consider him a friend. So now we're starting to wonder, was this over all these years, over decades now, was this all just for show, John? Did they really not like each other? Was this all just a show for the cameras?
Well, I kind of feel like this one, could he be trolling? Because it was only a couple of months ago where Roger Federer did a revealing interview where he discussed his retirement and finishing up with tennis and saying that Rafael Nadal was the second person he told after his wife that he had decided to retire. And that's how much of a dear friend he is. You had a month ago Djokovic saying, I wish I could go out to dinner with these guys, kind of implying that those guys go out to dinner together, hang out like friends. So either Rafael Nadal is trolling both of these guys, I hope, or the Saudis have corrupted Nadal. TikTok conspiracy theories, I love them. And I'm going to get this one up there. I'm going to do a TikTok today and say, the Saudis are brainwashing Rafael Nadal because he's signed with their tennis tournament. They're brainwashing him and turning him against Roger Federer. It's a weird statement, given that, a few months ago, Roger Federer is talking about how they're such good friends. And it's the second person he told about the biggest decision of his life after his wife. And Novak Djokovic has come out and said, basically, I wish I was friends with Rafael and Federer like they are friends together. And now Nadal's come out. Big Three's got to throw in the third comment and say, yeah, we're not friends. It's bizarre. It's a weird timing, weird statement.
Two very mysterious comments from Nadal that are unusual.
Yeah.
It's,
maybe he's hired a new press secretary or something like that.
Yeah, it's...
Or PR person. I don't know, but it's weird.
But you are left thinking, was it all just a facade for all that time?
Absolutely. Or does he have dementia?
You'd hope not. You'd hope not.
Like, because it's a big flip from his history. A big change.
And you sort of go, well, Federer's gone now, he's retired. Nadal's heading that way, John. I mean, he can't have long left. So the big three, it is sort of, it's coming to a close. That era is coming to a real close.
Don't worry, Andy Murray's back to make the big four again.
And you sort of think, now that era is coming to an end, is the truth now coming out about some things?
Is that what it actually is? Was it all just a big WWE style scripted show? Funnily, they released an ad recently. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was ATP released it, where it was interviews with tennis players acting like tennis is a fake reality TV show. It's hilarious. Right. It's so funny. Yeah, right. And, it has like Andy Murray and it has like, his real name, like the actor name. And it's got him like in a green screen room, like pretending to play tennis. And it's like talking about how the special effects guys are really like the kings. And Djokovic's actor is talking about how hard it is to get into character because he's such a nice guy in real life. And all this. It's really funny video. And maybe this is part of it. Maybe it's true.
Yeah, maybe.
But it is such a bizarre thing for Nadal out of everyone to come out and say basically negative things about it.
Very out of character, John, and I'm not sure what's going on there, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we'll see how he goes this year because he's got to play some matches. So everybody may have noticed that we haven't done an Honestly Guys, It's Just Our Opinion, and it's time for Honestly Guys, It's Just Our Opinion. Featuring our favourite subject, Taylor Swift. Has the Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce hysteria gone too far? Yep. Match over.
Yeah, John. Super Bowl winner Travis Kelce's arrived in Australia. He's joined Taylor Swift at a Sydney zoo.
Trust me, I know.
That's our connection to sport with Taylor Swift. We've got that out of the way.
Trust me, I know. My news feed is like blown up about it. Like, just won't shut up. I saw 7 articles about it today before I got to a non-Travis Kelce Taylor Swift news article. Drone shots, helicopter shots, long-range shots of them kissing, holding hands. It's beyond ridiculous. Seriously. Swifties are crazy. My daughter is crazy. She is. Sorry, Shasha, but you're crazy. I've come home and seen her on the couch dancing and singing. It's a hilarious video. She's crazy. Absolute nut job defensive if I say anything bad about Taylor Swift. Because, one of the things I always say is I really like Taylor Swift's music. I just think she's kind of a terrible person. Like, not that she's like, an evil person. I just think she's totally the exact kind of like over the top, arrogant, involves herself in politics kind of person that I just really think is ridiculous. She's like a ridiculous caricature of what a famous person should be. I do think that she's basically the modern Michael Jackson of music. Like I think in 20 years we're still going to be looking at these eras tours. They're breaking all the records previously held by Michael Jackson, But the fact that I opened my news today and the first 7 articles were Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce in the news. Okay, this is not news. All 7 articles were about the same thing. They went to the zoo or whatever. I didn't read any of them. All 7 articles were about how he'd arrived. 7 articles about the same thing before I got to any news. And there's actually news going on in the world right now,
Fair bit.
Yeah. There's actually news.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah, you got Vladimir Putin killing Navalny.
Yeah, you got still the Israel-Palestine conflict is still going on. Ukraine versus Russia war.
You got Donald Trump saying something every second day.
Donald Trump is about to run for president. About to. It's like the election is in November. You've got Donald Trump's court case still ongoing. You've got world-affecting events.
Yeah.
Okay? And instead of that, I've got Travis Kelce has arrived in Sydney. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift went to the zoo. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift held hands. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift kissed each other like couples do. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are wearing shoes today. Like, it's ridiculous. If people think this is news, there's something wrong with the world. So my answer the question, yes.
Yeah, John, I know there are some Taylor Swift fans who are healthy fans who might go to a concert and enjoy the concert, and they follow her, they buy her records.
You show your age. You don't buy records anymore.
They'll listen to her music on YouTube or Spotify or whatever it is now, John. I am showing my age there. No such thing as CDs anymore.
I listen to her on the wireless.
I get that there are those fans, John, and look, good luck to you. You can like whatever you want to like. It's a free world.
Yep.
But I think there's an element of her fans where it's becoming an unhealthy obsession with her now. I think when you've got fans who are at the MCG, there were some fans who didn't even get tickets to the concert and still went there and stood outside when you didn't get tickets. There's also stories of some people going to all 7 of her concerts in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne. Apparently it was costing them about $10,000, these people, to go to all her concerts. And you had some other people, John, who I think her flight got in at 1 a.m. to Australia. Some people even went to the airport just from a distance to look at the plane coming in. I just think, John, it's gone a bit too far. Has COVID sent people a bit crazy or something, John? Has this got something to do with it? John, like you, I'm not a fan of her. She couldn't have a laugh at herself at the Golden Globes when a very harmless joke was made about her. She didn't find it funny. She obviously takes herself very seriously, John, and as you mentioned before, she thinks somehow that her in the position she's in, she can influence the outcome of a US election, which I think is delusional.
Yes.
So this is where it sits, John. I think there are some fans who have a healthy liking of Taylor Swift. I think there are some others where it's becoming very unhealthy, John, and it's becoming weird. Yeah, it's odd. And it's very strange behaviour to me.
So sitting outside the venue they've actually it's become a Taylor Swift thing, hardcore, like really, really hardcore. They've asked people to stop doing it.
Sitting outside when you don't have a ticket, who does that, John?
So I'll tell you a funny story, right? I got free tickets to watch Guns N' Roses at Olympic Park. I don't really like Guns N' Roses, to be honest.
You like them, or you don't like them?
I've never really liked them. They're all right. They're my era of music. Like, I'm a 90s grunge. I think in the answer to
like Nirvana, you'd be Nirvana.
If you had one album that you had to take on a deserted island, that was the only album you could listen to for the rest of your life. It was Alice in Chains MTV Unplugged. And Guns N' Roses has always been really, really far down on the list for me. I don't dislike them, I just don't really like them, right? When I went to the concert at Olympic Park, it was terrible. The sound quality was awful. So bad. It was unwatchable. And, I was seeing on Instagram and stuff, people who were also there commenting about how bad it was. Couldn't hear the vocals, nothing. It was so bad. I've never been to a concert that was that bad, and I've been to dozens of concerts in my life. Mm-hmm. So we left. I was like, I don't really want to be here. I don't really like them. I don't care. I know a few of their songs, all their famous ones. So me and my wife left. And as soon as we got outside the gate, the sound clarity was perfect. It was like they had set the levels inside for outside. And we found a massive crowd of people outside, listening to it because it was so good. So from what I understand, 10 minutes later, they played whatever song it was. and they readjusted the sound so it was good inside and really bad outside. And so then the crowd outside dispersed, because I read some like internet stuff. And so what had happened is, like me, a bunch of people had left, right? Because it was unwatchable to me. Gone outside and gone, oh, this sounds awesome. I may as well just stay here and watch. So at the time when I walked out, I thought, look at these weirdos sitting outside. But then I read on the internet, like, yeah, this is what had happened. They had left. They'd gone outside and they're like, this actually sounds good. And I like Guns N' Roses, so I listen. And then when it changed to how it should be, and inside was good, outside was bad, they all left. But the Taylor Swift thing is bizarre. Okay, that kind of thing hasn't happened since, like, people like Michael Jackson. The 60s and 70s were like that. Because they didn't have good sound mixing anyway. People would back in the days where you would drive all night to go to the movie Dazed and Confused. Is like they're going to get Aerosmith tickets or something at the end of the movie. They're going to drive a few hours. They stay up all night so they can drive a few hours to an actually in-person ticket booth where you have to buy tickets. And if you miss out, you go and camp out outside and listen. Because like I said, the mixing isn't that good anyway. It wasn't that good anyway. It didn't matter where you bloody stood. For bands, for performers like Michael Jackson, people were like that too. They were crazy. They would go and stand outside in the vain hope that they'd see Michael Jackson driving past in a limousine. He'd pick them up and take them inside. And Taylor Swift is like that. They're crazy. They're nuts. They're just absolutely crazy. Yeah. Tickets went on sale again last night. I tried to get them, but I couldn't.
Yeah, John, I mean, it's a cult of Taylor Swift, isn't it, John? Just like it's a cult of Donald Trump. That they're aged more than 40 years apart, John. They seemingly don't have much in common, the two. But we are in the age of the cult of Taylor Swift and the cult of Donald Trump. They're probably... I mean, there's a lot of differences between them, John, but there are some similarities. Their bank balance is a similarity, that's for sure. Although Donald's just lost a lot to a huge
Well,
fine.
They say he lies about his anyway.
Yeah, so. He lies about it. But, I mean, yeah, you know, they're the two most talked about people in the world, John, and they're aged more than 40 years apart.
So, yes, honestly, guys, it's just our opinion, but we think Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce hysteria has gone too far. You agree?
Absolutely.
Time to end it.
Yeah, it's time... I know you're trying to get tickets, John, but I'm looking forward to the tour to be over and for it to go back and we can move on from this.
Well, I've watched them all, man. I've watched Pink, Lady Gaga, Usher, Justin Timberlake. Like, I've watched them all because I just like it for the experience.
But yeah, at least people weren't at the airport waiting for Justin Timberlake or Pink. Or
next time, go wait for Pat Cummins to come home, people.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to go waiting for Taylor Swift, then do it for Pat Cummins.
So that's honestly, guys, just our opinion for the week. It is about sport. I don't care what you say, Travis Kelce. Onto our social media blower-uppers. We're going to start with this one. Ultra Virez on the Eels preview. Our one knob jockey for the week. Do you guys actually watch NRL? Cartwright had a breakout season. They also signed Joe Offengawi and Joey Lussick. Bailey or Morgan will be the second centre. Sean Russell will be on the wing. Why bother if you aren't gonna do some basic research instead of phoning it in? Now, our social media manager responded to this. I gave him a little feedback and they adjusted the comment.
Yeah, it was well responded to, I believe. John,
so I think we can address that.
I read the response. It was well addressed by our social media.
So you can actually watch episode 49 to see why I don't think they should have re-signed Bryce Cartwright over other players. There were better options out there. Yeah,
I think that the social media manager went into some nice detail with that response too, John.
And so then you have things like some people have Bailey Simonson on the wing, some in the centre, same with Russell. So, you can... These people that say this is how it will definitively be are idiots. Yeah. They don't know. Yeah. They just don't know. Like, you don't know. And if you're right, you're going to go, see, I told you, but you didn't know. Like, you don't know. You're guessing.
That's the thing. It's a predicted round one team. That doesn't mean we're going to get all the predictions right. That's what a prediction is. You don't get... It's not a set-in-stone team. The team hasn't been named yet. We're all guessing what it's going to be.
You don't know. either of those guys could be injured. Like I wouldn't wish that, and then they won't be the centre. And then were you right or wrong?
Yeah. Exactly.
With regards to Joe Offengawi, he signed for the Eels in mid-season transfer in 2023 and played 11 games last year. And Joey Lussick also signed and played in 2023. When we went through the team gains and losses, we talked about the gains for 2024, not 2023, 2024.
Yes.
So I love this line. This is what I added in. Perhaps you should have done your research before phoning it in. So, yeah, well done, Ultra Virez. We always have at least one.
You've set him straight, John.
Yeah. Tony, BJJ Life. On ya, Tony. BJJ Life, bro. On the Warriors previews, I like this man's predictions.
Good on you, Tony.
PLC 2866 on Warriors preview. Hang on, travel's never easy. Regardless of how much they played in Loz, travel takes it out of you. Well, yeah, it does. Yeah. And that's always been the Warriors' curse. But I think what we were saying was Andrew Webster had addressed it last year. He'd solved it last year. The previous 2 years, the Warriors were good in Australia because they lived in Australia. Last year, they were based out of New Zealand, but didn't have away issues. So whatever Webster's done differently, maybe coming earlier, maybe preparing them, I don't know.
And maybe that having to be in Australia for that amount of time and play all the games, maybe that's helped them as well.
So it's, travel is always hard, and we did talk about it with other teams, like teams that are going to have to go for a long travel. Like North Queensland, I think is going to stay in Queensland for most of the opening 6 or 7 rounds, but the 2 travel points they have to do. No, it wasn't North Queensland. Someone has to travel to North Queensland and to the Warriors, New Zealand, like big travel lengths. So yeah, travel is hard for all teams. Mm-hmm. This is your story on Broncos preview. The analysis on this is second to none. You guys are very good. The bit about Broncos choking, I haven't heard that on other podcasts. Our social media manager replied and said thanks. Mm-hmm. And then they said, thanks, I only just found you. Been listening to a lot of team previews of late from Brian Fletcher and others. I also have Warriors first. Okay. I do think the Dolphins will make the 8 and could be a force. Cheers for the comment.
Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
We both had the Dolphins pretty close to the 8, but not in the 8. So, no one's ever right at the beginning of the year. Dolphins could make the 8. I've heard a couple of predictions for this now, actually, that they expect the Dolphins to go well.
Okay.
General, I knew you'd love episode 50. First commented before he'd listened. Gower was a tough SOB. He used to get whacked and dusted off every time. Remember his shiner in the grand final that I was damn near closed? Yeah, I went and looked. It was pretty hardcore. Yeah. And then after listening, great podcast. Gower is a smart cookie man, knows the game well and ways it could be better run. The NRL could do worse than give this guy a job. We'll pass that on to Craig Gower and let him know.
Thanks, General.
As always. Anthony Santa on the Storm preview. Storm won't miss the 8. Lock it in, Eddie.
Time will tell. We'll see what happens.
Can't wait to bring that one back up. Don't worry, Anthony. I'm taking notes for everyone who disagrees with Dan. Andrew Milne on the Storm preview. The only tremendously protected by the refs is the Panthers and the Brisbane. No, that was in response to someone else saying that the NRL is protected. So I think he's saying that the only teams that are protected by the rest are Penrith and Brisbane. Mm-hmm. According to Ricky Stewart, every other team is. And Michael Ibbett, we've got a second one. There's always 2 on the Storm preview. Who are these 2 stiffs? There's John and Dan from SmartB.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day to write that comment.
At least you watched it. Yeah. Housekeeping before we finish up. Don't forget to sign up to SmartB for the Subversion competition to win 2 tickets to Subversion April the 6th. Get your tip of the day. Sign up for a tipping comp. You can win $10,000. I like the line. It's more than $25,000 in prizes is available. $100 a week given away to the best NRL tipper, the best AFL tipper, and the best NRL and AFL tippers at the end of the year get $10,000 each. Compete against... Going to get Gowie in there, Mitchell Pearce, Julie Snook. There's a whole bunch of other people that have signed up. People have started setting up private tipping competitions. Their tips will still be included in the global rankings. A few public tipping comps. Some companies are setting up public tipping comps. Like Parker's Cellar has set up a tipping comp. I believe they're going to give away some wine to whoever sits at the top of their ladder at the end of the season, as long as they're over 18. Don't forget the SmartB Racing Update. They had a cracker of a podcast yesterday. It went live. Awesome. Some good tips. They've tipped Mr. Brightside again. Apparently, this Mr. Brightside horse is really good.
I like the name, Mr. Brightside.
Me too. It's really good.
It's a good one. Rolls off the tongue.
Lewis and Oliver are really good. Hopefully, one day we can actually. So they'll do the Melbourne Cup podcast obviously this year, so we don't have to. But hopefully one day we can get them in a room. And then don't forget to follow at SmartB app on social medias. Subscribe and like our YouTubes. Definitely watch that episode 50 as well as all the other episodes, because it's really good to get Craig Gower's thoughts on a lot of things, like the stuff Dan and him had a really awesome conversation. Like I said, I listen to all of our podcasts, but I've listened to that one 3 times.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it was a great experience. Yeah, I love watching Craig Gower as a kid, and to get to have that conversation with the other night. Yeah, it's something it was great to be able to do it. So thanks for the opportunity, John.
One of the things that I was so upset, because one of the things I wanted to ask him about, we're getting sidetracked on housekeeping, that's all right. I wanted to ask him about next time he's here, because he's going to come regularly. Yeah, next time I'm going to ask him, because think about it, in the time where he was there, right? He played 9 for Australia in Origin because there was Andrew Johns. He mentioned Trent Barrett. There was Brett Kamali. There was Jonathan Thurston coming through. There was Brad Fittler. There was so many halves, okay? And then he touched on in that podcast, well, he said quality halves are hard to come by. When you look at today's day and age, the amount of quality halves that we have when compared to just 20 years ago there's a vast discrepancy. I'd love to get his thoughts on as to why. Yeah,
if he was playing now, John, he'd be on DCE money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have some. And if you want us to ask Gowie questions, do some comments and stuff, because as I said, he'll be on there. There's a few other guests coming for cricket, for AFL. Hopefully, we can get Mitchell Pearce on. And have a good weekend. Watch some trials, watch some T20s, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Yeah, double header at Belmore tonight, John.
Couldn't get tickets.
Roosters, Rabbitohs, and Dogs, Sharks. Even though Roosters, Rabbitohs will be C teams.
Yeah,
because they've gone to Vegas.
I might give it a bit of a watch, but I will watch the Dogs game though. I want to see how the Dogs go.
Yeah, they've named a pretty close to full strength team, I believe. Awesome. So it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Captain Stephen Crichton.
Yes.
And Matt Burton's been dropped. All right. Thanks, see you guys. John. See you Monday. See you, producer John.